Anyways, this is also going to be a YouTube video while I'm gone to Japan. I need to prepare some content for during the World Championship. So we're gonna turn this into a YouTube video. Say hello to YouTube chat. Welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning into the video. We are talking about the World Championship format for TCG and OCG. I've prepared a little tier list and I'm gonna rank some decks on decks to beat, good, mid, bad, and some sleeper picks maybe for the upcoming World Championship. I assume most watchers of this channel, either on YouTube or on Twitch, are gonna follow the World Championship. It's gonna be a very interesting event. I personally think the format is very, very cool. I've personally been caught up with preparing for Master Duel these last couple of weeks because I'm gonna be playing not in this World Championship, I'm playing the Master Duel World Championship. But still, I think this year's TCG OCG format is very interesting. And I'm also gonna use this little graphic here for context, right? Because it lists a lot of the key changes to a lot of the top tier decks in the Master Duel World Championship. If I find the creator of this image, I'm gonna link it in the YouTube description because as of now, I've only found the image. I don't know who made it. You have to understand that for Worlds, it combines the OCG and the TCG ban list. It's ready for duel. Okay, then shout out to Ready for Duel for the infographic. It combines TCG and OCG, which means that for branded Fusion is limited, Branded Opening is limited, Lubellion is limited, Magnamut is limited because they are all limited in the OCG, and Dragoon is also banned. The Expulsion, I know is banned in the TCG. I don't know if it's also banned in the OCG, but that's the hits to Branded. I think Branded is still fine. It's a little bricky because only one Fusion, one Opening. The one Lubellion doesn't really matter. Most Branded decks only play one anyways to send with Branded Fusion. I think the deck will struggle with consistency. I think it will have to be 40 cards to be consistently getting to Branded Fusion, like maybe like a 40 card deck with Allure of Darkness to banish Tragedy to get more consistent access to Aluber is something. One thing that's worth noting though is that Valor or Imperm are going to be very strong against it because you if you don't find Branded Fusion then it's very hard to hard draw it. The Branded Synchro deck is okay, but I think that deck doesn't handle one Lubellion, one Magnamut very well. I'm gonna put Branded in. Like this deck is just solid. I think it's not, I don't think it's the top deck to beat in this format, but it is definitely to be expected. Like, I think a couple people are going to be bringing Branded and performing decent with it. Pearly, where is Pearly? Pearly is bad. The reason why Pearly is bad is because the TCG and the OCG have hit Pearly in two different ways. Because in the TCG, Delicious Memory is at 1. In the OCG, Sleepy Memory is at 1. At Worlds, that means both are at 1, which is just horrible for consistency. It's just terrible for Pearly. Also, Duelist Nexus is not legal yet, so you don't have the new XYZ either. There's just nothing going right for Pearly. I honestly don't expect anyone to bring Pearly to this event. I really don't think so. It is just not it for this format. Sprites. Sprite is interesting. Actually, it's not that interesting. 1 Jet, 1 Blue, 1 Starter, no Ronin, RIP, no Elf, RIP. Pure Sprite is not playable under those conditions. It will simply not play through hand traps. So Pure Sprite, I would also say is bad. The one thing I think you can do, and that ties into the next category of Runics. Runic Stun only has 1 fountain, which makes the deck bad, I think. However, I think this might be me coping. You know I'm a Runic Sprite enjoyer, but I personally think that you can play Runic Sprite with 1 fountain, because the fountain in Runic Sprite is really something that's the most important on the first turn. I'm not going to say that it's a good deck because I had no time to confirm whether it is or not. I did not test this for Worlds. I did not. However, what I will say is that if I was qualified for Worlds, I would have definitely tried it. I think the most potent version would have been Runic Furhire Sprite. I'm going to put that into a sleeper deck. I think if someone took the time to experiment with this, maybe they found something. Maybe. There's a big chance that just no one brings this deck to Worlds. And that's one of the... On the one hand, it's very cool about Worlds, but on the other hand, it's kind of sad because it's only a tournament with 28 duelists, which means that very, very often, things in the format just go unnoticed. If no one brings it, you will never know how it would have performed if someone found it. I'm looking at someone like Dinkabui, who's had major success with different runic variations in the past. I'm sure that Dinkabui tried to make Runic Sprite work for this event. If he liked it enough to bring it, I would say he got a good chance at doing well with it. But maybe he just thinks it's not good enough and then no one is going to play it, right? Maybe it's just going to be Labyrinth or another deck. I think if someone messes with this and brings it and finds a good list, I think they have a chance. Cash Tira, luckily, is completely dead. Cash Tira has 1 Unicorn, 1 Planet, 1 Rysart, no Diablosis, no Fenrir. Thank God we're not gonna have to watch Cash Tira in this World Championship. There is no way Cash Tira does anything. And now, welcome to Tearlament, the deck with the longest list of cards on the ban list probably ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! It feels like half the ban list is Tearlament cards by now, and it's still meta in the OCG. I have a hard time imagining this deck doing well, but it's not dead. As weird as it sounds, 1 Sharon, 1 Rhino, 1 Havness, 1 Merly, 1 Agido, 1 Keldo, 1 Mudora, 1 Kelbeck, 1 Pearl Rhino. The OCG still plays it, but the OCG still plays it because of Chaos Ruler. The thing is, I have underestimated Tearlaments in the past, in the OCG. The last 2 or 3 ban lists that they got in the OCG, I was like, hey, now it's dead, now it's dead, now it's dead, and it never was. So I'm not gonna call it bad. I'm gonna throw it in mid because someone freaking surprises me and brings like the craziest danger Tearlament pile, and it just, maybe it just performs. I don't know, dude. Because I also think that's one thing about this tier list that you have to consider. Because of what I said earlier, where it's only 28 players, what can win and what can't win is like heavily dependent on what these players will choose to play, right? Hypothetically, Runic Sprite could be good in this format, but if no one plays it, then it can't do well, right? And so you have to think about how likely is it that someone plays this deck, right? And I think the OCG players are not unlikely to try Tearlaments. Because they've been playing Tearlaments for so long, they will definitely try it without Chaos Ruler and see if they still like it. And maybe they still like it and still bring it, right? And so that's why I think there's a realistic chance that we have a couple Tearlament players at Worlds. Super Heavy Samurai has 1 Soul Piercer, 2 Bikes. This one is banned, the FTK Enabler, and the Scarecrow is banned. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that deck is not good. I haven't even included it here in the tier list. I see that right now. I don't even have it here because I don't think it was worth mentioning, but it's included in the graphic, so I guess, you know. Maybe as an engine somewhere with just Vakaushi into Baron, maybe, right? But not as its own deck. Dragon Link has a couple of hits on the ban list. However, I still think Dragon Link is solid. 1 Lubellion, 1 Magna, 1 Druis hurts. But you can still play Dragon Link, I think. You still got 6 Bystials overall, plus Lubellion. You have 1 in 1 of the Chaos Baby Dragons, but we have those at 1 in the TCG since forever. I think Dragon Link is a good deck, especially because if decks like Branded and Tier are to be expected, of course you get additional value from having a Bystial-based strategy. So I think Dragon Link is good. I don't think it's the deck to beat. I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to be the most represented deck or anything, but Dragon Link is fine. Fluanda Reese has only 1 map, no statue, and also not mentioned here, but it only has 1 prosperity, which I think makes the deck very mid overall. It still is playable, I think. I'm not sure if anyone will. It still is better than it is in Master Duel because it has terraforming, which is banned in Master Duel, for example. You still have multiple Empins, which is also limited in Master Duel. So the deck is fine. I wouldn't call it good. I think it's the bottom of mid. I don't know if anyone even wants to play this deck, but I think you could if you really wanted to. I guess we should talk about some of the decks that have not really been touched on the ban list. It lists Sky Striker here. I am go out on a limb and say Sky Striker is still very, very mid. Maybe it's even bad. I don't think Striker is to be expected. Don't say deck to beat, chat. Let's be real. I don't really see it. Labyrinth, I will say, is one of the decks to beat. Labyrinth only has 1 skill drain, because that's one of the few things that's based about the OCG ban list, that they limited skill drain. But that's not that important, honestly. 1 skill drain is still plenty. Furniture Labyrinth doesn't even need it at all, technically. I think you can go get away without it. You don't have Garura for punishment, but that's something you can deal with, honestly. I don't think that's too important. Karma Cannon is not allowed, but that's fine. I think there is enough other good options to replace stuff like Punishment or Karma Cannon. That deck is just very, very good. It can play a very solid amount of hand traps to deal with stuff like Branded, Dragon Link, other top tier decks that we're going to talk about. The one thing that's pulling down Labyrinth, in my opinion, is that it is the deck to beat, right? The fact that everyone who's testing for Worlds is going to have Labyrinth on their radar, right? People will either main deck for Lab or side deck for Lab for sure, right? People are going to be prepared for Lab, which is a downside to it. I still think it's a very respectable deck. We have a lot of, I think, very strong duelists from the TCG as well who are very likely to bring Labyrinth to this event. I don't know if anyone does. I don't have any info, but I think it's very likely that some duelists will play Labyrinth from the TCG. I think the OCG duelists are also very, very likely to play Labyrinth. They did like the deck a lot. So Labyrinth is definitely to be expected. Draco Slayer is not very good. There's better combo decks in this World Championship, I think. Dark World is technically full power. I'm gonna put Dark World in the sleeper category because Dark World also has a good matchup against Labyrinth. The problem for Dark World, I think, is that I think Droll is not unlikely to appear in side decks. Cards like Shifter are not unlikely to appear in some side decks. But I still think Dark World, if someone takes the time to cook up a solid list, that could be one of the combo decks that can pull out ahead. It does struggle a tiny bit against Bestials from these two decks, but still, Dark World is something to look at, you know. Exo Sister is at full power besides 1 Prosperity, and it only has 2 Shifters. I think Exo Sister for this Worlds format is okay. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of the good category. The one reason why I'm gonna put this deck into this category and not into the mid category is because there is one duelist in particular that I'm thinking about, and that's Steven Sintoli. I think it's like, I don't know, 80% chance or 90% chance that Steven Sintoli just plays Exo Sister for this event again, right? He's been doing well with it in the remote duel YCS. He won and he qualified for the 4 Worlds with Exo Sister. Someone who's that experienced with Exo Sister has a very solid chance to bring it to Worlds again and do well with it again, right? The deck is unhit. They know the deck very well. The short preparation time doesn't matter as much when you've been playing a deck for months, right? That is an advantage that is not to be underestimated. Speaking of this, the same goes for Rika. I don't think Rika is super well positioned into this format, right? I think Rika can have a tough time against Lab. Rika can have a tough time against some other decks that play a lot of hand traps. But Jessica has been playing Rika for at this point, it's not even months, it's probably years. I think she's just very, very well positioned because she knows the deck in and out. I would be very surprised if she turns up with a different deck. So in that case, I think Rika is solid. I don't know if I would call it an overall like good deck, but I think just the fact that Jessica is probably going to be playing it, there's a solid chance it performs. Let's talk about hand trap strategies in general. I've included these 3, the Mathmech 1-card combo with hand trap piles. Adignister and Marincess are at full power. Mathmech is 1 circular, so it's basically the TCG version. In order to evaluate these decks, you just have to evaluate how strong hand traps are in this format. Ash and Bell look very good in this format. Ash and Bell are really good against Lab. Ash and Bell are also very solid against Branded. Ash and Bell are also good against Dragon Link. Ash is good against Exo Sister. Bell, not so much. And then Ash is good against Rika. Ash and Bell are also good against Tyr. Ash is good against Flu. I think that makes hand trap decks okay, right? Hand trap decks just seem fine in this format. Out of the hand trap decks, though, I think Marincess is probably the best because it's just very consistent. I think Marincess goes somewhere here, or maybe sleeper. Maybe Marincess is a sleeper pick. Mathmech mid, Adignister mid. I don't expect people to show up with these. Mannadium it's basically the current TCG version of Mannadium. We don't have the cards from Duelist Nexus yet. Maybe it's here? Maybe it's a sleeper pick, but I think it's fine. Scareclaw, I think, is mid. Sword Soul is the definition of top of mid. Like, Sword Soul is at full power pretty much. No Protoss, but that counts. So, Sword Soul is fine for Worlds. Sword Soul can play a decent amount of hand traps. I think Sword Soul is okay. I also think there is a decent chance that people play Sword Soul, like 2 to 3 Sword Souls maybe. Yeah, somewhere around here. Trap Tricks, I don't think will show up much. The problem with Trap Tricks is that everyone who's preparing for Labyrinth will also, I think, have a solid time against Trap Tricks. It just seems like a worse version of Labyrinth to me for this format. Vanquish Soul loses Fenrir, but still is a very adaptable deck. This is the deck that benefits, I think, the most from the fact that Ash and Bell look solid in this format. I like that you can play a deck with 3 Ash, 3 Bell, and they have synergy with your deck. I'm just gonna call Vanquish Soul a sleeper deck. I think if someone goes into the kitchen and cooks a sick Vanquish Soul deck for this format with Ash and Bell, I would not be surprised if they ran through this tournament. It's probably my favorite sleeper deck. No Fenrir hurts. Absolutely, I agree with you. Fenrir is a very good card in Vanquish Soul, but you can do without it. Virtual World, I don't even know why I included it. I don't have much faith in Virtual World, but maybe bottom of mid. And those are the decks that I felt like were worth talking about for the World Championship. If you think I've missed anything, drop your predictions either in Twitch chat right now or in the YouTube comment section later, and we'll see who's right and who's wrong about the decks that are going to be present at this year's Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. I'm excited to see what ends up doing well. Let me know what you think of this tier list in the comments down below. And thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Peace.